The library's collection of paintings is known as the Kilburn Collection. It was bequeathed to us in 1917 after the death of Daniel Remick, who was Benjamin Kilburn's son-in-law. Benjamin Kilburn is the world-famous stereographer and photographer who was a resident of Littleton, and he spent his lifetime cultivating this collection, which was known in its time as the grandest collection north of Concord. So two of the most accomplished artists in this collection, William Halsall and Edward Hill, were both had studios in Littleton, and Mr. Kilburn met them early in their careers and took a great interest in them. He was a great patron of the arts and supported both men financially and professionally. One of the most beloved paintings in the library is this one here, and it's called Enthroned Above the Clouds. It's by Edward Hill, and it is of our beloved Old Man of the Mountain. And this has really become a symbol of New Hampshire and is beloved by all residents, especially since his sad downfall in 2003. So it's great that we have this painting here to remember him by. During the 19th century, some of the artists from the Hudson River School of Art came to the White Mountains to try to depict some of the rugged beauty and wildness of the area. They were spurred on by stories of tragedy and adventure like that of the Willey family, and they came up to try to capture some of that beauty and some of that danger in their art. So paintings like this one by Edward Hill, which is called Carriage Road on Mount Washington, you can see the storm clouds moving in and the tourists headed up the mountain, and it really depicts the wildness and the remoteness and the danger that is inherent in our beautiful White Mountains. Some of the most famous paintings of the White Mountains School of Art were done from stereographs taken by Mr. Kilburn, such as this one by William Halsall called Summit of Mount Washington in Winter. This painting is called Gathering Water Lilies. It's another Edward Hill. And as we've said before, Mr. Kilburn was a great patron of the arts, and many of the paintings were depicting his favorite spots in the White Mountains, and some of them were based on his stereo views. This one actually depicts his what are known to be his famous dogs, his hunting dogs. So they were beloved by him and were always found with him, and they appear in this painting. So this painting was brought home from Europe by Mr. Kilburn. He was traveling there, and it is probably a copy of a masterwork, but we don't know who painted it, and we don't know exactly which work it is based on, but it is one of the paintings that Mr. Kilburn brought home when he was traveling in Europe.
Another one of our famous painters, or well-known painters here, is Ellen Farr, who was a New Hampshire native, lived in Littleton, was married to Everett Farr, who was a Civil War hero and became a congressman. After her husband's passing, she started up a studio in Littleton and began painting still lifes of this, which is an example of. Eventually she moved down to Boston to continue her painting, and then eventually moved out to California. Near the end of her life, she decided to do a grand tour of Europe, and against the advice of her doctors. She did end up passing away while she was on her grand tour in Italy. The sailors were not happy to carry a coffin and a deceased body on board and were against that, so someone came up with the bright idea of labeling her coffin as sculpture, and she came home unscathed. The material that is used for the embellishments often wears with age, cracks with age due to the weight of the hanging, and you'll see these hairline fractures that come up here, and sometimes chunks actually do fall out. That can be restored to look original, but again, you have lost a little bit of that frame, which is also a part of the piece of art. These are original, so they're all in the style of what was common of that time period. They also require extensive upkeep. They are actually often more expensive to maintain than the paintings themselves. We are very proud to house this collection. It's really exciting to be basically a museum and to offer it to the public at no charge. We actually get a lot of tourists who come in specifically for the art collection, and it speaks to the cultural legacy of this town that we're able to offer it up to the community.